Our next speaker is Chris Hawley, a city planner and Buffalo history aficionado. He works currently for the Buffalo Office of Strategic Planning within City Hall, where he is focused on historic preservation and zoning reform. He has previously worked for U.S. Senator Charles E. Schumer and developer Howard Zemsky.
Pretty thrilled to hear about trains as a nice segue into this part of my talk. So let's get started. So I'm here to talk to you about the New York Central Beltline, which I'm about to argue is the most important physical feature of Buffalo that almost no one talks about. So what in the world is the New York Central Beltline? Let's see a show of hands who's heard of it. A few folks, that's good. Each day, trains go by along it and people drive underneath and over it throughout the city without necessarily realizing that these lines and the places they connect share a common geography. It is forgivable to not be aware that these lines are in fact part of an elegant, coherent system. And this system, or organizing framework, is the New York Central Beltline, a hide-in-plain-sight secret that is now starting to get a great deal of attention. Here's a map. It's a 15-mile circumferential railroad opened in 1883 with segments dating back to 1836. It was a commuter and freight railroad with 19 commuter rail stations, the last of which is now a home at Amherst Street and Starin Avenue. It is, in my view, as important to the city's physical and economic geography as Joseph Ellicott's radial and grid plan and Frederick Law Olmsted's park and parkway system. This is what I would argue is the most important document in the city's history, or a series of documents. Joseph Ellicott's radial and grid plan, overlaid under which is the 1876 Olmsted plan. In 1876, Frederick Law Olmsted introduced what I think is probably the most consequential document in all of Buffalo city planning history, a map of his parkway system overlaid onto the Ellicott system, and also introducing for the first time in its significance the New York Central Beltline, not even completed by 1876, but well in front of the mind of Frederick Law Olmsted in terms of its consequence. So I like to argue that the Beltline is the third strand in Buffalo's DNA, Ellicott, Olmsted, and the Beltline, equally consequential in shaping the economic and physical geography of the city. Now, why is the Beltline important for industrialists? Well, like Niagara Square was for government buildings, or Main Street for department stores, or Lincoln Parkway for mansions, the Beltline was an elite address for industrialists. It meant you had superior access, if you were located in the Beltline, to raw materials needed for production, as well as shipping finished products, as well as a labor force, being a commuter line, a unique advantage that only the Beltline offered. The Beltline was a place where consequential people made consequential things. Folks like John D. Larkin, Glenn Curtis, and Mary Rebecca Cass, who was the CEO and general manager of the largest paper box manufacturer in the world before she was able to vote in a presidential election. They made products that were incredible. It's amazing to look back in Buffalo history and look at things like the Pierce Silver era, the Bell XB-59 Era Comet, the first jet aircraft ever created in the US. And of course, the Twinkie, the most important product of all, made in the Wonder Bread plant on Huron Street. So why is the Beltline relevant today? Well, commuter service ended at the end of World War I. It continues to be used as freight service and also by Amtrak. But what I find as a city planner so fascinating is that most of the industrial building stock is still there. Some 12 million square feet of highly adaptable industrial space that is in a unique position to facilitate the continued mixed-use revival we're seeing all across the city. We're running out of historic rehabs in downtown Buffalo, and that's a very good problem to have, because we have millions of square feet of industrial space throughout the city that is often eligible for historic tax credits and ready for mixed-use revival. The potential for these buildings for entrepreneurs, developers, or people who want to live and work in cool places is unimaginable. And to be part of an amazing story, in particular, I think, is the magic of the Beltline. This is the King of Belgium, Albert II, visiting the Larkin administration building in 1918, just after World War I. Who wouldn't want to be part of a continuing chapter in the Beltline's history? I think no tenant, no resident, no entrepreneur wouldn't find the magic in these spaces to be enrapturing. To give a sense of what 12 million square feet means in industrial lot space, it is 14 HSBC towers. That is the breadth of the real estate opportunity that the Beltline represents. So, look, A lot of developers are now looking at the Beltline as an opportunity, especially after I started giving these presentations back in 2012. So the Larkin District perhaps is one of the greatest examples. We're now seeing a mixed-use revitalization story in all these other nodes along the Beltline. Chandler Street, which I actually never imagined would be taken on so early, is now a major hotspot for development. Really remarkable. Niagara Street, the Northland Corridor. Increasingly, people are taking a look at Fujiran around the Wonder of It plant. It's a really amazing thing to see. The Pierce Aero plant, 1.2 million square feet of space, as much square footage as the Chrysler Building in New York. Perhaps the greatest example in Buffalo of the potential of creating something akin to the Distillery District in Toronto, except of course in a very different architectural style. Really amazing space. So, all throughout the Beltline there are these wonderful spots. The Wonder Bread plant is probably my favorite. Simon Pure, the brewery at Clinton and Emsley Street, completely off everyone's radars. The Larkin Powerhouse in the middle of the action, still vacant and underutilized. A remarkable opportunity. Niagara Street, the Fleischmann Malt House, wonderful buildings all throughout the city that are still untouched and awaiting a mixed-use revitalization. You know, I like to try to stick sports figures quotes into presentations I make, but I think one by Wayne Gretzky in particular is particularly powerful. I skate to where the puck is going to be, not to where it has been. The Beltline is, in my opinion, where the hockey puck is going to be. The Beltline is the next phase in Buffalo's sustainable development. It's an exciting thing to see happen, and it's undoubtedly going to continue into the future. Pay attention to facebook.com/Buffalo Beltline to keep up on Buffalo history, our Beltline history, and development news. Thank you very much.